folks, welcome to Queens Storytellers, a show presented by the Queens Theater. I am your host, David Lawson. We present every single week 5 stories from writers and performers of all writing and performing disciplines. All of these people performing true stories from their own lives. This is the second of this 10-episode series. First, this week, we're going to be hearing from Richard Cardillo, who recently appeared on the PBS show Stories from the Stage. Richard is going to be performing a story about being a monk. Then we're going to be hearing from Mary Regan, a regular performer at UCB, who actually has a story about what happens when somebody performs a comedy sketch making fun of you. Then we're going to be hearing from Darin Patterson, who is the co-host of the SNL Nerds podcast. He's going to be performing a story about the first time he ever got in a fight, which happens to also be the most recent time Darin Patterson ever got into a fight. After that, we're going to be hearing from Jessica Robinson, who is the founder of Better Said Than Done, a storytelling series that performs in Fairfax, Virginia, and in Washington, D.C. She's going to be performing a story about how sometimes it's not very good to have really good hearing. Our final performer this week is going to be Michele Carlo, whose memoir, A Fish Out of Agua, is available wherever you get books. She's going to be performing a story of having to deal with a difficult neighbor in Brooklyn in a very specific way. I am so excited for these 5 stories this week, and I'm so happy to be sharing them with you. If you just happen upon this video, then please go to queenstheater.org and check out all the other good stuff that Queens Theater is doing right now, or you can go to their Facebook page, Queens Theater, and that is theater with an R-E, on Facebook. So folks, please enjoy these 5 stories from Queens Storytellers this week. I'm your host, David Lawson. Enjoy the show, everyone.
Thank you. In 1976, I was 17 years old, and I made this profound decision to give my life to Jesus Christ and the Blessed Virgin Mary and join a Catholic monastery of teaching monks and take a vow of celibacy. I was out to change the world. I was out to save my soul. 40 years of difference now shows me what I was really out to do was repress these feelings of why guys were so attractive to me. And I didn't know what to do. So I tried to pray away the gay and stay inside a monastery. I go in, I start my formation, and in the first year they taught me the ropes. And in the second year, I became a novice. And that's when I learned what was going to be involved in living a life of celibacy forever. At the end of the year, in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, and the superior general who comes from Rome, all these military terms, a superior general comes, and in front of all of these people, you sign a form that says, I promise and I pray that with the faith in God, I will observe my vows as best as I can. They then snatch that paper away from you, put it in a frame, give it back to you, and you have to put it up on the wall of your cell. It wasn't a prison cell, but it felt like that. And you put it up on the wall of your cell, and it was supposed to be the first thing you saw every morning when you woke up, and the last thing you looked at right after evening prayer at night. And that's what led my life. My novice master was so fond of saying to me, when you signed on that dotted line, you signed up for everything. I have no use for a monk who says, I didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for that. You sign up for everything. So I signed up for everything. And I figured this was going to be the way to save my soul. They eventually sent me, after my formation, to go teaching in an all-boys Catholic school in Harlem. I was the youngest brother monk in a community of 17 men, and I did not have a clue of how to teach at all and had to learn everything from these men. But I was determined and I signed up for everything. I was teaching my 5 classes a day. I was coaching the track team in Central Park at the end of the day. I was going in the evenings and on weekends to get my master's degree. And that was my life. Very, very repressed, but I was keeping that vow to a T. Finally, the brother superior, Brother Joe, comes to me and says, I have one other job for you, Brother Mark. That's something I left out. My name's Richard. But when I joined the monastery, they give you this new name. And my new name was Brother Mark. I used to think you just got this name as a symbol of new life. I realize now I got that name so that in my adulthood, I could engage in therapy for thousands of dollars trying to figure out these identity issues. It was crazy. So he said, Brother Mark, I have one more job for you. Your charge will be taking care of Brother Augustine, the oldest brother in our community. Brother Gus was a 93-year-old curmudgeon of a brother who emigrated from Ireland. He was from County Kerry. He was not really a Barry Fitzgerald type, but he was a cross between a very sainted man, a relatively harmless curmudgeon, and a vicious, sadistic prick. And this guy rode me, and he tried to get my goat every day. And I didn't know he was just making fun of me or this was the way it had to be done. So I followed every rule with him. I'd have to wake up and I'd have to pray with him, especially in the morning. I'd have to take care of his sanitary needs and help him get to the shower and out. I'd have to help him get to the chapel. 92 years, but pretty spry. And the biggest job I ever had to do with him was taking care of his passion in life. Because you see, Brother Gus had this one passion in life of raising cactus gardens. Okay, I know, too good to be true. A prickly man taking care of cactus gardens, but it was the truth. And this guy did it with a passion. He had botanists writing to him. He was written up in magazines. He was giving advice all over the world. And it was amazing. And he'd send me up. We built him a greenhouse on the roof of 124th and Lenox to raise these award-winning cacti. He'd send me up there with these little thimblefuls of water. And he'd say, sure. You go up there and you turn number 12, a quarter turn, and give it a thimbleful. And then you go to number 22 and turn it and give it a little more. He would send me crazy. And he'd always do it with that special name he saved for me. My nickname for him was, you fucking shite. And he'd call me that over and over. And I couldn't believe I had no sense of dignity with this man. It was horrible. I'd have to pray with him for the salvation of the cacti. So we'd go to his room in the evenings after I watered those cacti, and I'd have to say speed rosary with him. He wouldn't wait around long enough to say the decades of all the rosary. So he'd be so fast with it, and he'd shorten every prayer. Hail Mary, Holy Mary, Hail Mary, Holy Mary, Hail Mary, Holy Mary, glory be our Father, Hail Mary, Holy Mary. And I'd listen to this going crazy. And I was praying for the salvation of cactus plants. I couldn't believe it. Brother Gus was a lifelong smoker, as most people were in those days. He had smoked since his childhood. And sure enough, in his 90s, he goes for a checkup and he gets a diagnosis of lung cancer. And the doctor said it was so advanced, he only had about 4 to 5 months to live. So my caregiving was hiked up even further. I had to bathe him, clean him, say special prayers with him. I had to take care of his medications, keep him in pain-free as much as I could. And I was doing this like crazy for him every night. And sure enough, within those 4 months, he wasted away. But before he did that, he would say to me every night, sure. And nobody is going to get the secret of my cactus. That secret will die with me. And I'd look at him and I'd say, well, it's fine with me. I don't want to know how to grow cactus. I want to learn how to be with guys, but I didn't. I was a celibate for 14 years, maybe one of the only ones in that monastery that was. But that's another story for another day. He said, that secret will die with me. No one will find out how to grow these cacti. Sure enough, his time comes and he passes on. I prepare his body for burial. I take his body with all the brothers up to the brothers' cemetery plot in upstate New York. I bury him and I come back. The day after I come back, Brother Joe, the superior, says, Brother Mark, there's an envelope I've been holding on to you from Brother Gus. He left it for you and said you were not to read it until he died. And I'm holding the envelope now, the secret. I have the secret knowledge. I have this wonderful secret knowledge. I go to my cell. I open it up. And in the most beautiful calligraphy that he had put down, he wrote me a special note. And it said, this note is written in the year of our Lord, 1979. Brother Mark, to you I bequest the secret to watering the cacti. Step number 1, every morning before morning prayer, go out to the newspaper kiosk on 124th Street. Step number 2, buy the New York Times, national edition. Step number 3, take the New York Times after morning prayer to your room and open up to the national weather page. Step number 4, look at the weather in Phoenix, Arizona. And when it rains in Phoenix, Arizona, water the cacti. I'm reading, not believing it. I threw it away again. Was this serious? Was this making a fool out of me? All of this secret knowledge that I waited for all of my life came down to this. When it rains, water the cactus. I couldn't believe it. A lot of water under the bridge since then. My life has gone in many different directions. I've been in a relationship now, married for the last year, and very, very happy with my life. And I really have no need for any of this secret knowledge anymore. In fact, for me, secret knowledge is probably just as important as when it rains in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you.
So, one of the things that marked my time on an improv team at a theater in the city that probably for intents and purposes no longer exists, but no one's exactly sure. Um, One of the things that marked my time on that team was the camaraderie that we all had with each other, sort of celebrating each other's idiosyncrasies, what kind of pop culture everyone liked, what kind of food they like, what kind of music they like, whatever. And my defining trait while I was on the team was that I really loved dogs. I still do love dogs. That hasn't changed. Specifically beagles. But I love dogs so much that my team and I would be hanging out on the street and I would see a dog and I would come up with an elaborate backstory for the dog and all these details, almost like I was filling out like a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet or something. And um, I would start talking in like a high-pitched cartoonish voice that was supposed to be the dog's voice. And at one point, when I was on the team, I draw and I drew in colored pencil this very elaborate illustration of a royal court of beagles. And I showed it to my team at one point and they reacted with, polite horror. So while I was on the team, one other teammate specifically and I were really close. We got to be really good friends. But then she left the team, and then several months after that, I was cut from the team. And not too long after that, we sort of started to drift apart a little bit. And she had a Christmas party at one point, and a fire broke out. And I put out the fire by throwing a Brita pitcher full of water on the fire, which I thought would make me a hero. But we just kept growing further apart for some reason. So several months after that incident, she was putting on a sketch show that she had written and was performing in with another comedy partner that she had. And I decided to be the bigger, I was going to be the bigger person and go watch it. Plus, you know, why else do you go into comedy if not to judge other comedians? So I go and I bring another friend with me who had been telling me for a while that maybe this friend who's performing the sketch show is maybe not such a good friend. And we go, and at one point during the show, there is a sketch about a lonely, isolated, oddball woman who really loves dogs, specifically beagles, and likes to draw pictures of beagles. And at one point, when she sees a dog, she runs up to it and she starts fucking it. So we watch the rest of the sketch show, and at the end of the show, my friend turns to me and she says, "So that sketch about the girl who likes to draw dogs, that's kind of like how you like to draw dogs," which was really polite of her. It was really polite of her to say that rather than say, "I think the dog fucking sketch was about you." And we get up to leave, and we're walking out the door, and the friend who had written and performed in the sketch show was standing by the door, you know, greeting people as they left. And again, I decided to be the bigger person, and I went up to her and I said, "Good job." And she says to me, "Did you like the sketch about the girl who likes to draw beagles? That's how you like to draw beagles." This happened many years ago, like 15 years ago, and there's a lot of shit going on in the world now. It's crazy. It's like, you know, we're living through the revolution or the apocalypse and everything kind of together, and there's so much going on. And as I said, the theater where I performed with this person, for all intents and purposes, may not even exist, at least in this city anymore. But I still get hesitant and almost fearful to tell the story because I feel like there's going to be some kind of retribution for telling it. And I don't know. I think it just speaks to what a hold that specific world of comedy had on me at that time in my life, and to some extension still has. Not comedy, not what a hold comedy has on me, but that specific world of comedy has on me, that I would still even have that thought when we're seeing the world literally change before our eyes, and things aren't going to be the same. But I guess ultimately, though, she can write a sketch about whatever she wants and perform it. And I can tell a story about whatever I want and perform it. And as long as we respect each other's anonymity, it's fine, I guess. Thanks.
All right, so this story is the story about my first fight, and I put that in quotes, and you'll see why. And I also start off the story by saying, like, even to this day, I've never been in a fight. Like, it's a weird thing. Whenever I tell somebody, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm in my 40s, I've never been in a fist fight," some guys look at me like, "Really? Never? You've never been in a fight? How's that possible? You're a man. How do you express your feelings if you don't punch something and hurt something?" And I don't know. I just never done it. Like, I'm pretty affable guy. Like, I always like to, you know, joke around and stuff. And anytime it looked like something was close to being a fight, I was always able to kind of talk my way out of it, and always kind of, lighten the mood, as it were. Like, I've always avoided confrontation, and I just never got into a fight. And like, I've always been that way. I've always been that way since I was a kid, where the story takes place. So the story takes place back when I was in elementary school. I believe it was like 4th or 5th grade. I went to PS 79 in Whitestone, Queens, which is, you know, northern part of Queens. And I was a really good kid from what I remember. Like, I was one of those kids that was never a problem. I just did what the teacher said. Just, you know, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I never talked back, you know, never sassy. Like, you know, I was pretty model student. I was A+. And see, that's the thing, though, like when you're a kid like that who is like, just very agreeing with the teachers and always polite and everything. A lot of the other kids kind of take that as an affront, that you draw the ire of the other kids, because, I guess it's like being a cop, like if you're a new cadet on the team, on the force there, like the other cops see you, you got to do something to prove you're one of them. So if you're not down with them, then it's like, I don't know if I could trust you. And then, school lives matter, I guess. So, and like the one kid that was really bothering me about this was this one kid, Pejman. Pejman, he was a Persian kid. He had like a big full head of hair, I remember. I don't know why I fixated on his hair, but he had like a beautiful big head, and this story takes place in like the mid 80s. So it was kind of like, you remember John Travolta's hairstyle in Welcome Back, Kotter? It was like that, the Vinnie Barbarino. And face-wise, I don't know why, he reminded me of Jack's friend Larry Dallas on Three's Company. Like, I watched a lot of TV as a kid. But yeah, for some reason, anyway, so this Persian kid, Pejman, big, beautiful Andy Gibb hair and a face like Larry from Three's Company. And he for some reason, like, he had a problem with me, and I still don't know why to this day, just maybe because I was a goody-goody, I guess. So Pejman got it in his head to, want to fight me, just have a fight with me. And so he said something along the lines of, "Hey, Darin, you know what, you and me, after class, we're going to fight." And I think I said something along the lines of, "No, thank you." Just like, "Hello, no, thanks. I'll have none of that, please." And, just trying to be as nice and, cordial as I could. And for some reason, Pejman still wasn't having. He was like, "No, we got to fight. You and me in the yard, by the bike rack, after school, be there." Like a WF wrestler. Like, he flipped over a table, he ran around the ring. And, so it looked like, I guess, I was fighting the guy. I don't even know why, but I was very confused about the whole thing. So, like, I was kind of sweating it out, trying to figure out, well, how can I, maybe there's a way to get out of it. I really don't want to fight the guy because, like, fighting is bad, and that's what bad kids do, and I'm a good kid. So how do I get out of fighting? So I was racking my brains throughout the entire school day, and it hit me, just like out of nowhere, saying, "Hey, wait a minute. What if I just don't show up to the bike racks in the yard after school? What if, after class, I just get on the school bus and go home?" Pretty smart. There's no fight if you're not there to fight. Oh, the perfect crime. Patterson, you've done it again. Like, I'll just leave him there like a runaway bride, jilted, and leave him as like a jilted groom at the altar. Won't he look stupid? Sitting there, and I'm on the bus at home. And yeah, that's exactly what I did. I just got on the bus, and I just left him there, and just being very proud of myself that, like, I thought of this ingenious plan. And of course, years later, I now realize that's like a total coward's way out. And that's not really something to be, cheered or brave at all. So after that, so I was on my way home, feeling good, just, decompressed. And it just kind of dawned on me, like, that I got out of fighting that day, but I didn't consider, well, what about tomorrow? Like, he still goes to that school. He's going to be there. He's going to be mad. And so I didn't really avoid the fight so much as I postponed it. And sure enough, the very next day, Pejman walked up to me and said, "Hey, what happened, man? Where were you? Were you ducking me, man? You afraid of the thunder? You don't want any of this?" And I was like, "Oh, was that yesterday? Oh, dude, I am so sorry. I spaced on that. I'm sorry. That's my fault. But we could we could schedule something, because this seems to be really important to you, and I don't want to make you mad. So maybe like August. How about then?" And of course, Pejman was like, "No, we're not doing it in August. No, we're doing we're doing this today, after recess. Be there." Gah! And we just walked out. So, like, oh, so now I have to fight him after recess now. Like there's no bus at recess. We got to go back to school in recess. There's no escape. I'm trapped here. So like now the whole day I'm worried about recess coming. So I'm just like kind of freaking out about that. So the middle of the day comes, recess time. All the kids go out playing kickball and double dutch and stuff. I'm, like I always do, I'm just reading a Mad magazine in the corner. But whenever I see Pagemon kind of walking around the yard, I kind of like slowly get up and move out of his way. Like I'm walking around the yard. Like he walks to me, I kind of walk away. He walks here. Like every time I see, that beautiful head of hair, like kind of moving towards me like a shark fin in the ocean, like I kind of get up and slowly move away. So the whole recess was just me avoiding him and hiding in corners and, reading my Mad magazine. And that's pretty much how I felt. That's pretty much how I went the whole recess. So I was just so throughout this whole time, I was just trying to think, well, how can I get out of this now? Like there's no escape chute. There's no bus. How am I going to get out of this? Still super nervous, still super freaked out. I was hoping, maybe I could just avoid it and just hopefully it'll magically go away like most New Yorkers do on the subway. Like, somebody else will deal with that. I'll just look over here and just close my eyes real tight and it won't be there in a few minutes. But yeah, no, it was there. And just couldn't figure out how to get out of it. So like, I don't know how you guys, watching did your recess, but in my school, when recess was over, you heard a whistle blow, and then all the kids that stopped what they were doing, they had to run towards their teacher, and then they line up, double file to go back into school. So I knew all I had to do was just kind of wait till that whistle blew, and then like once the whistle blew, I was saved. I could just run to the teacher would walk us all back in, and I'd live to hide another day. So just me walking around the yard, heard the whistle blow. I was like, that's it. I made it. All right, let's go home. We did it. We did it, team. Yay, team. And so I ran to the teacher to get in line with all the other students. And I'm running. I see the teacher. It's right there, right at the finish line. And of course, who cuts in front of me? But it's Pagemon. And he has like two guys with him. He has a posse. I don't know where he got a posse in this day and age, in this time. But he had a posse. He was like, dude, what the hey? We're fighting now, right now. And I was like, I gotta line up, man. It's the rules, man. I don't make the rules. And he's like, no, we're fighting right now. And then after that, a few other kind of students were kind of gathering around too, like they were drawing a little crowd. So like Pagemon there, a little crowd there, kids were lining up. It was so I was kind of trapped. I didn't know what to do. It's like I guess I gotta fight this kid, but I don't want to fight this kid, like, cause the teacher's right there and they're gonna see that I'm gonna get in trouble and I don't want to get in trouble. I need to I don't know. I need to land some type of like invisible punch, like something where I get him, but the teachers don't see me get him, type of thing. And I don't know how to do that. How am I gonna do that? And I don't know. My adrenaline was high, the pressure was on, and people, I'm not proud of the next thing I did here. All right, I'm just letting you know right now. I'm not proud of it, but dude, you do what you gotta do to survive in that schoolyard. All right, that's all I'm saying. Like when the pressure's on, and the heat is on, and there's people around you, you have to make a choice. You have to make a decision. And I made my decision. It'll haunt me to my dying days. So I Darin Patterson, I spit on him. I spit on Pagemon and I ran to online. All right, that's what I did. I just and just ran towards the teacher. Look, hey man, hey, we do what we got to do. All right, I lived to see another day. And my face stayed pretty. It's hey man, don't you judge me. Let he cast the first stone. So I ran online to my teacher. And then of course Pagemon, of course, was right behind me, bewildered and covered in my saliva, and the teacher but here's the thing, my teacher at the time was Miss Weinstein, and Miss Weinstein really liked me, and she said I was a really good kid and all that stuff. And so once I got online, and I lined up. You know, I looked like I was home free. But then Pagemont came up, talked to my teacher, and said, Miss Weinstein, Darin spit on me. And I mean, I still feel kind of bad about this, but Miss Weinstein kind of made a call right there. And she basically said, Pagemont, no, Darin doesn't do that. Darin's a good boy. He doesn't spit. Don't be a liar. Go back to your class and go inside. So I gotten away with it. I'm not brave at all. I'm no hero. But I had gotten away with it. Spit on this kid. He walked away sullen in my saliva. And that I had won my first fight, I guess you could say. And that was it. So and the weird thing about that is after that, I don't know, Pagemont and I kind of became friends. It was the weirdest thing. I don't know. My theory is that if I was able to do something kind of dirty and underhanded like that to him, maybe I'm not all that bad. Maybe I'm not the goody I seem to be. Maybe I got a little bad boy in me, you know. I'm rough and tumble. I'm a renegade. I'm a loner daddy. And so then me and Pedro became friends, and that's my first quote unquote fight, I guess you could say. And I still think about it from time to time. It's definitely no Rocky moment in my life, but it's something interesting. I especially think about it whenever people tell me what my but ask me what my spirit animal is. Because you remember spirit animals was a big thing a while ago. And then whenever somebody says that, I kind of smile and laugh to myself, and I say, I think my spirit animal is a llama. And they're like, llama? Why a llama? Then I'd say, it's a long story. Thank you.
I have excellent hearing. And if you don't know, excellent hearing is a mixed blessing. On one hand, I hear things that other people can't. On the other hand, I hear things that other people don't. And when you hear things and other people don't, they tend to assume you're hallucinating. Even my dear husband sometimes doesn't believe me when I say, did you hear that? Because no, he didn't. And I got to tell you, the worst time to be married to a normal is when you have babies. Here's what a typical night would go like. Honey, did you hear that? I think the baby's up. Honey, no, I didn't hear anything. Going back to sleep. The unspoken rule, of course, is if you hear the problem, you deal with the problem. Which leads me to wonder if maybe, just maybe, people with average hearing are sometimes pretending they don't hear something. Like my darling daughter, my firstborn, I on rare occasion have to yell, stop, don't do that, put that down. And on even rarer occasions, she doesn't listen. And when I ask her why, she says, I didn't hear you. And I don't know, should I believe her? I mean, she, like her father, has normal hearing. My son, my second born, who I'm going to call Hulk because he likes to smash things and speak in monosyllables, he shares mommy's genetically superior hearing, which for him too is a mixed blessing. I mean, the kid is impossible to get to go to sleep because he's always hearing noises, and it's impossible to get him to stay asleep because he's always hearing noises. But still, when he was 18 months old, new to the whole walking and talking thing, one of his first correctly and frequently used words was noise. The Hulk could often be found stomping around the house, pointing his finger at something or someone and accusing noise. I'd be in the kitchen putting the dishes away and Hulk would stomp in, point his finger at me and say, noise? Yes, mommy's just doing things with pots and pans, go about your business. Or I'd be in that one room in the house where I'm supposed to be able to have 2 seconds of private time. And the bathroom door would smash open and there'd be Hulk pointing his finger at me saying, noise. Yes, mommy, just flush the toilet, go about your business and let mommy finish hers. And I am on one hand happy that my son shares my superpower, but I worry for the lifetime of suspicion that he has before him. I have had over 40 years of experience of people not believing I hear the things I say I hear. So I've mostly given up trying. It used to be that if I heard a noise in the house that concerned me, I'd ask my husband to go investigate. But I have long since found he can't. So if I want to deal with it, I have to, like a hound with its nose to the ground, only I'm a woman with her ear to the air, search it out and find the problem so I can fix it. Or I can take option B, which is to ignore it and hope it goes away. And either because I was going with the ignore it and hope it goes away option, or, well, maybe because I didn't think he'd believe me, I didn't tell my husband when the ringing sound started in my ears. It was intermittent at first. I went into the kitchen one morning, turned on the light to go make the coffee, and there was this high frequency noise. I either got used to it or it went away, and I didn't think about it again for a few days. But then it was back, and a few days after that. And it became more and more consistent over time until it was almost impossible to ignore. But I tried to just close my ears off and just wish it away. I tried to pretend that this wasn't happening, because as much as excellent hearing is a mixed blessing, it is my one superpower and I don't want to lose it. So for 2 months, I held on to this dirty little secret. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I just tried to ignore it and hope it would fix itself. But then there was this long, hard day. And when you have little kids, you got a lot of long, hard days. And I just picked the kids up from school and daycare, and I deposited them in the living room, and I went in the kitchen, turned on the light, and stood there in the middle of the kitchen with that heaviest of heavy questions weighing on my shoulder. What am I going to make for dinner? And as I was standing there contemplating this, the sound returned. It was in my ears and I couldn't ignore it. And I just didn't want to deal with it. So I looked up at the ceiling and I said, please, please, I can't handle this right now. I can't deal with this right now. Please don't give me one more issue. And for the first time in my life, when I looked up at the heavens and asked, I was answered by the Hulk stomping into the kitchen, pointing his finger at me and saying, noise. I looked at him and I said, noise? He pointed at the ceiling and said, noise? I pointed at the ceiling and said, noise? He said, noise. I said, noise. And then I started jumping up and down and saying, noise, noise, noise. And he started jumping up and down and saying, noise, noise, noise. And we were both jumping up and down and yelling noise. And he didn't know why we were doing it, but he was having fun. And I was so happy because he heard it too. Later that night, after we had successfully snuck past the sleeping Hulk's room, as I was lying in bed with my husband, I told him about the 2 months of worry, about the noise that I'd been hearing, and about the fact that our son had heard it too. And my husband's face kind of crunched up, he got that look, and I was like, oh, here we go. He's not going to believe me. But instead he said, are you talking about the humming sound in the kitchen from the light bulb going bad? Yeah, so next time I hear a noise that concerns me, I'm going to go ahead and tell my husband after I check with my son. Thank you.
Nothing good happens after 2 o'clock in the morning. That is what my mom told me every time I tried to get my curfew raised. At this time, I was 20 years old, and I was going to the School of Visual Arts, and I wanted nothing more than to be able to stay out all night, dancing at video clubs in Manhattan with all my friends. But my mother said, no, you have to be home at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, Mom, but I'm 20 years old. I'm going to be 21. I know, I am an adult. And my mother said, ¿Tú crees, you think you are un adulto? Mira, cuando tú eres un adulto, you will have your own apartamento, you will pay your own bills, you will have your own money. But as long as you live under my roof, you will be home at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I had no choice but to obey her. I came home drunk. I came home tripping. Once or twice, I even came home without my underwear. But by God, was I in that apartment at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then finally, some years later, a miracle happened. I graduated and I moved in with my college boyfriend to a nice apartment in Astoria, Queens, where finally I was going to be an adult and live the life I wanted, free of curfew. Only 9 months later, my boyfriend decided that yes, he too was an adult and wanted to live the life that he wanted. So I had to go back home to the Bronx and 2 o'clock in the morning curfew. And I was like, Mom, come on. How am I supposed to get a new boyfriend if I can't stay out all night? And she was like, well, you should have thought of that before your boyfriend broke up with you. And I was like, and at this point, I was just like, I'm on the far side of 25 now. Like I'm 26 and I'm just like, I can't live like this. I need to get out. So I did. I got as far away from my parents as I could and still be in the same city, near Prospect Park in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood called Windsor Terrace, where I found a nice apartment in a nice enough dump that a freelance proofreader and wannabe actress like me could afford. Plus, it had a backyard. Or backyard access. And the landlord said, yeah, you can go in there and you can do whatever you want with it. I mean, it was a dump. It was overgrown, full of weeds, garbage, but I looked at it and I saw a sparkling oasis for my new adult life and all the new boys I was going to meet. But then, a couple of weeks later, I lost my job, my new job. The job that paid enough for me to live independently, the job where I had not worked long enough yet to qualify for unemployment. I had a little bit of savings, enough for a couple of months' rent and a tiny bit left over. So I went to Key Food and I bought a giant bag of rice and a giant bag of beans because, hey, I'm Puerto Rican. I could live on rice and beans, okay? And I took my bike and I rode down to Grand Army Plaza because that day, Grand Army Plaza where the Brooklyn Public Library is, because that morning I looked out in the backyard and before where I just saw a place where I was going to be making out drunk, I looked at that backyard and I saw dinner. So I cleaned it up, and after I cleaned it up, oh, what a mess it was. Oh, I will spare you the bones and the whatever, the effluvia, the Indian head pennies and the nickels and whatever. I got it clean. And I took my bike and I rode down to the Grand Army Plaza Library and I took out every book I could find on organic gardening because this was in 1988, people, no internet back then. And I went home and I read them. And then when I knew I had all the knowledge, I took my bike again and I rode down Flatbush Avenue, where the Apple store is now on Flatbush across from Brooklyn Academy of Music. There was a nice nursery and I brought back home green beans and eggplant and tomatoes and zucchini and Silver Queen white corn and 3 different types of tomatoes. And I planted it all with purpose, with nasturtiums around the tomatoes to draw out the bugs that preyed on those, with marigolds around the corn to draw out the bugs that preyed on those, with mint and fennel and garlic around the other vegetables to guard from the raccoons and the possums. Because yes, this was Brooklyn, but it was Wild Kingdom, people. You would see the eyes glowing in the night. And while I'm doing this, I'm being watched by my next door neighbor, an older woman. She probably was the same age then as I am now. And she would watch me, chain smoking her unfiltered Pall Malls. And she had an eye patch, and so would be staring at me with this one eye. And she would say, "What is you doing with God? You is knowing nothing. All will be die, ugly girl." And I was just like, what the hell? And I was just like, I just took it out of my mind, because like, I can't be paying attention to her. I need to grow a garden, because you know what? Living on rice and beans is no fun. And I needed that food. And plus I had 2 new dependents. I had gotten 2 kittens to keep me company, because being an adult was kind of lonely. And as the summer grew, the spring turned into the summer, my garden became an oasis, like a lush Henri Rousseau painting, bursting with life and vitality. And my neighbor's backyard was a soggy heap of mold and rot. And she would look at me when I watered every evening, and she would say, "Why your plant is liveth and mine is die, not correct." And I would be like, I don't know why her garden was rotting and mine was flourishing. Maybe all the bugs and beasts that were repelled from my garden were feasting on hers. But, you know, I had another thing to worry about. I was starting to get hungry, but I had no worries, because the ripest vegetables were starting to come up, and I knew that the next day I was going to have fresh, organic food. Only the next day, half my zucchini were gone, and then my tomatoes, and then my corn. I couldn't understand it. And the green beans were gone too. And I didn't see any evidence of anything. I was like, they were disappearing into thin air. And I just really couldn't get it. And then one day I'm out there tending the dwindling garden, and there's a message in the dirt, a fat, bare footprint, and an unfiltered lipstick Pall Mall butt, cigarette butt. And I turn around, whoosh, and I look at the 4-foot chain link fence that separates our yards, and I see my neighbor leaning against the fence. "Why your garden is liveth and mine is die, not correct, ugly girl." And she laughed, and she went into her house. And I just stood there. And I just ran back into my apartment, and I started screaming, like she was stealing from me. And what could I do? I wanted to rip off that eye patch and stick my fist into that hole and take it all the way down and tie her into a knot. But I knew that if I even so much as touched her, I'd be the one to go to jail. And I knew that my parents were only a phone call away. They loved me. They would have come and got me. They would have bailed me out as best as they could. But no, I was supposed to be an adult. I was supposed to deal with this on my own. But I was hungry. I was so hungry. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been really hungry ever. And I'm not talking about that you cut out the carbs for 3 days because you want your tummy to look at the beach. I mean, being so hungry that it keeps you up all night. And no matter how much water you drink during the day, it's always on your mind. And at that moment, I knew I was defeated. I was a total and complete failure as an adult, and I would have to go back home to the Bronx and to 2 o'clock in the morning curfew at the age of 27 and a half. And so, yeah, I went up. I decided I was going to shoplift at Key Food to feed my cats, because this is what my life had come to, and I was not good at shoplifting. And I was going to go to the bank of phone booths and call collect to my father. But then my little Russian blue kitten, who was having tummy troubles because I had been feeding him water bugs and crickets and grasshoppers from the garden to supplement when I had the nerve to go shoplift at Key Food, he went into the litter box and took the worst smelling cat crap I ever smelled in my life. And then I had an idea. I crept into the garden at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was cool and quiet under a fingernail moon. And there were 2 eggplants left, and I knew which one was going to be the culprit, the big fat purple globe. So I lay down on my back underneath that eggplant, whipped out my X-Acto knife because, hey, I went to art school, remember? And I carefully scored out a circle at the base of that eggplant and finally cut into it until I pulled out a plug. And then I went inside the eggplant, scooping all the time inside to make a hole, all the time measuring the circumference of the hole against the circumference of the cat turd that lay in the baggie at my side. I started sweating. It was hard work. The sky began to grow light, and I heard noise next door. So I just took that cat turd, stuffed it up into the eggplant, stuffed it in the plug, basically rolled down the stairs into my apartment where I just like fell asleep, the sleep of the exhausted. And then the next day, I wanted to reward my cat for, for this. And I looked out the window and I saw the eggplant was gone. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to Key Food and I'm going to shoplift steak. That's right, we're gonna have steak. I don't care. So as I'm leaving, when I'm wearing a coat, and it's like, it's like the end of August, and I see my next door neighbor on her stoop, and she takes one look at me, and she goes, and she runs into her house with leaving the cigarettes on the porch, and I nearly broke in half laughing. Because what I wanted to know was how and when did she find out that eggplant was poopy trapped? Did it fall out to her hand as she stole it at the dawn's early light? Or maybe it liquefied inside as she steamed it for her family whole. Well, now I'll never know what happened with that eggplant. But what I do know is that nothing from my garden ever disappeared from that day forward or ever again for the 5 years I lived in that dump. And 3 weeks later, I ended up getting a job. And I never had to move back home ever again. I was independent. I was an adult. Hooray! So, nothing good happens after 2 o'clock in the morning? Sorry, Mommy. This time, you were wrong. Thank you.